This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Former Razorback coach Houston Nutt joining halftime. And Coach, really appreciate you joining us today. We've got your former quarterback and good friend here with me. And, man, this is really exciting to have you today. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be on with Matt Jones, no doubt about it.
Coach, it's always good to hear your voice. Love telling Coach Nutt stories, like to compete. Man, Coach, it's good to have you on.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Has this been done before? You know, Matt was on radio previously.
Yeah, he joined me a couple times on the other show. He'd come on. You know, I don't like to ask people too many things. You know, it's kind of stayed of my own. But Coach always there for me.
Coach, you know, Matt is a great partner, and when the lights come on, he is always ready to go. I mean, that's kind of what you expected when he played for you, and he continues to do the same on radio.
I tell you, Phil. My grandsons are in Rogers, and I've been getting some reports on you guys. You guys are doing such a great job. I'm serious. I've been to a couple places, and they bring up y'all's show, and I love what y'all are bringing to the people, man. That's looks like that's what they want to hear.
Coach, with Coach Pittman, I do want to ask you, camp just finished up there on the hill, and Coach Pittman had said they were going to tackle a little bit more this year, and it got me thinking a little bit. Coach, I remember our scrimmages kind of being a little physical, and we're staying into pads up through September on a Tuesday, Wednesday. What are kind of some of your camp goals? How much do you think these teams should tackle during preseason camp?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. You know, that's always the question. When you're in the staff room, you want to be ready. And the one thing about this game, it's the greatest game in the world. You just can't show up when the lights come on and say, okay, now let's go tackle. And you want to keep everybody as healthy as possible. That's what you always worry about. But the thing about this game, it's who's going to be the best blockers, who's going to be the best tacklers. So to your point, Matt, what we try to do is we'd always be physical. What people didn't realize is we'd always be physical every day. Middle drill, even in team, you know, we'd fed up, and it was very physical. We didn't want anybody going on the ground. We said nobody on the ground. It was still very physical at the point of attack, wrap up. But what we tried to do is you try to set up so we're going to have 3 scrimmages. And sometimes we'd go back to 2 if there was some depth, if there was some experience. But the tackling part of it, especially when we say, hey, it's live, you want to be able to just put it on automatic pilot where you know, hey, this is how we tackle, we're going full speed. And, you know, usually we found out when you're going full speed, that's when really we didn't get anybody hurt that much. But when we got people hurt is when you kind of go halfway, you're in between, and you stand around a pile, and all of a sudden somebody falls down into somebody's knee, and that's what makes you sick. So we'd like to stay physical up until, you know, probably that first week. You know, when you're about 7 days out, we start taking everything off. But those 2 scrimmages were really important because sometimes going into the fall camp, you still got some positions that, hey, they're kind of neck and neck. You can have guys battling out different positions. And so your main goal is we want to put the best 11 on offense, best 11 on defense, best 11 on special teams, and then to be as physical. The team that, to me, is the team that was the toughest team are the ones that had those couple of scrimmages. But every single day, you know, your linemen, your D linemen, hey, they were getting after it. So they always got the bulk of, you know, the quarterbacks and receivers sometimes, Matt, as you know, when you go back to the locker room, the linemen say, hey, y'all didn't do nothing today. Oh, y'all didn't stand the ball off, so y'all ain't doing nothing. And they're down there in those trenches, you know, and that's where you really respect those guys that are in the trenches.
So much respect for the offensive, defensive linemen. You know, Coach Lee, Coach Wiki, quarterback coaches, and they both told me, to your point, it's like you're getting up there at the line of scrimmage, and the offensive linemen get down, and then all of a sudden something's up. He's like, you tap them on the butt and tell them to go ahead and stand up. You try standing in that stance for 38 seconds before you fire off.
That's right. That's exactly right.
What are your Saturdays going to be like, Coach? You know, we were previewing this conversation a day ago, and I was thinking to myself, when's the last time that you had Saturdays to decide what you wanted to do with your day. And maybe it involves football and maybe it doesn't, but it's got to be a long time ago.
Well, that's right. Every August, guys, I get like probably Matt does. I get kind of antsy. I get ready to go. I always think I'm going to go get a team. Go put a team together and get ready to go, because August always has the greatest memories to me, is because it's just eat, sleep football. It's eat, sleep football, and it's a grind. It's a grind. Now, it's a lot. I think it's a lot probably easier, a little bit better now that the true two-a-days are gone. And, especially with this heat the way it is right now, it's probably a good thing. But to answer your question, Phil, it started when I got let go at Ole Miss. That was the toughest time. That right after that, after about 30 years of coaching, like, man, this Saturday, well, there's nothing there. So I was fortunate enough to go to CBS. They allowed me to stay there for 11 years. So that took all. I got to watch a lot of games. Now this year's going to be different because retired from CBS, and I still do a little speaking. But Saturdays will pretty much be free. So it's basically going to be popcorn and Coca-Cola and watch football, all day, or go to a game, which will be different. But that's what you miss. You just miss that team. You miss the locker room, the relationships, and that's what to me is really special. Is the relationships, what you built all the way through the years, through the two-a-days, the grind, the off season, and then you go to a war with one another. You go on that game day and you go win. What you miss the most, and I think Matt will agree, it's the celebrated locker room. Where guys come in there and you're wet as sweat. There's a little blood on some of your teammates, and everybody's hugging one another. It's just a job well done. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it starts in camp. You have a common goal, and that's one thing. You got to like to compete. You got to like to get out there and play. And Coach, you did really good about recruiting speed. I tell people this. We got one of the best track programs up there in the country, and you did great about recruiting two-sport athletes. You were a two-sport guy, and that was one of the reasons I came to Arkansas, to be able to play both sports. But the list goes on. Shredrick Krabs, Fred Talley, Lawrence Richardson, Ahmad Carroll, Eddie Jackson, just guys that you had over there. One of the things I think about this team, and if we're going to make it to a bowl game this year, is we got to have some speed. How are you so? How are you so good at recruiting speed and getting them to come up on the hill?
Well, I believe in it, Matt. I had the privilege to play at Little Rock Central, and all my teammates were very, very fast. And I found out real quick. I was a pretty good supporting cast member at quarterback when I had speed on the edge, at receiver, tailback, tight end. It taught me a lot. And so when you fast forward, what was good, man, I could go into a living room and say, hey, guys, I can promise you 4 or 5 national championship rings. And they would look at me, Ahmad Carroll, Richardson, Eddie Jackson. They would look at me, I can promise you 5 national championship rings because you're going to run track. And guess what? Track's going to win a national championship every year with John McDonald. It's already had one section right there sold on the track part. And I love, you mentioned two-sport. I played two sports in college. And, man, I had to recruit you really hard because I was really worried there for a while. I thought you might go to Oklahoma. And I told my brother, I told Danny, I said, hey, listen, Matt wants to play basketball. I want him to play both. And as long as y'all kept your homework, kept your grades up and contributed, we said, hey,
that's what you said. You did, Coach.
Yeah, and you did a great job with that, handling all that. And so did Eddie Jackson, Batman Carroll, all these guys, Tony Hugo. And John McDonald was great. We had such a great relationship that I said, hey, I got somebody for you now. Eddie Jackson can run hurdles, and Batman can run 100. Richard Smith, all these guys. So we were a good team. As far as, because my goal was I want the football team to have a relay team for John McDonald. That was always my goal. I never did quite reach it. Now, sometimes we had 2 legs, but didn't quite reach it. But there's nothing like speed, and that's the thing, Matty, you know this. When you play, I'm going to tell you something. Hey, Phil, it was not a greater feeling when you walk across the field and the opposing coach says, man, y'all are fast. And there'd be years where the defensive coordinators would go, I'll never forget Joe Lee Dunn saying, hey, Coach, Matt Jones, when does he graduate? And it was because Matt was such a nightmare he was a nightmare for defensive coordinators because you could cover everybody up. You could have fast. You're playing Auburn, LSU, Alabama, and you're playing all these fast teams. But guess what? When you had Matt Jones, he was like the 12th man because you got everybody covered up, and guess what? He takes off. And then you add a little option, and you add play action, and all of a sudden now he starts throwing with accuracy, and his balls are touchdown balls a majority of the time because they're all overpopulating the line of scrimmage because they want to stop the run. But it goes back to what you asked, Matt. It goes back to speed. You've got to be fast. And I'd give up 2 inches. I'd give up 2 inches if you're fast. And that's why I didn't worry about Sam Olajubutu. Sam Olajubutu, Coach, why do you want to recruit a guy that's 5'9"? Well, his heart is bigger than Razorback Stadium. He is very fast from tackle to tackle, and he's a wrestling champion. So we're going to go get this guy. And it's just things like that, to me, it's speed for a kickoff team in the back end, the receiver, tailback. If you got speed, you got a chance.
You're also describing people, and this is the way that Matt has described you, Coach, as a competitor. He's even just said it a few minutes ago. When you're playing multiple sports, it's like it's I don't know, maybe it is because I'm not like that, but an addiction to competing, a need to compete. And I'm not talking about competing in practice. I'm talking about competing where you're keeping score against somebody else with another school. There's a need for that amongst 2-sport athletes.
I think you hit on something. Jacob Skinner, I don't know if y'all remember him. Jacob Skinner was a tremendous basketball player. In fact, he's a head basketball coach right now at a high school there, I think, Texarkana. And so there's something about competing. We win all season. Sometimes guys will just run. We do line drills, do different things. We'd say, okay, give me the best DBs. Give me the best 2 fastest DBs. Let's see who's going to win. It's a 5-10 and back. 5 yards, 10 yards, and sprint through 50. Let's see who wins. And you call out the winner. There's something, it's a win or lose game. That's the thing about it. I mean, it's a fine line, but it's a win or lose, and that's where that competing comes in. And, a lot of times, early on in my early years, I'd always, in all season, love to compete basketball against the players. And one of the reasons I wanted them to see, we're probably not as athletic as you guys, but tell you what, we're going to compete just as hard, and we're going to try to beat you. And so it's something about winning and that edge of competitive spirit. And to me, that's what a Razorback's about. It's that competitive spirit.
Yeah, and it's not only about that. It also is about that, but it's about being mentally sharp. And like what you're saying, Coach, you might be a little old. I remember playing basketball against you and Danny as well, and Sparky Hamilton coming up saying that y'all beat them. I was like, well, we can't let that happen. We go into Bud Walton, Coach Nutt's over there, Drew. And if you stood back 1 second, he was gonna make that 3-pointer right in your eye. They didn't respect our range, Bill. They didn't respect it. So we couldn't go around them. Matt, those guys are too fast. We were too old. We couldn't go around them, so we had to find a way to hit some 3-pointers. Coach, what do you think this team, what if you were to talk to this team and see this team, for them to make a bowl game this year, what do you think this team really needs to improve on and be able to do this year?
Yeah, I really like, just sitting from afar, I had met Coach Pittman. But just sitting from afar, I really like the way he embraces his players, the fans. And when you look at his team, number one, I always look at who has the quarterback coming back. To me, if you have the point guard coming back, well, you always slept better as a coach. So when I look at this team, I start with KJ. I feel better, as a coach. I know they feel good. You got a guy who has experience, a guy who can throw the football, and he also can run. You got to tackle this guy. And that, to me, is where that starts. Now, when you look at the team, I don't know much about the defense. With the transfer portal and all these things, it's hard to keep up with teams. I speak to a lot of teams, and what's amazing is coaches will tell me, Phil, Matt, that, about 17 players weren't here for spring ball. So that means you got to get your team in August and try to bring all this chemistry together, put them in the right spots. That is different. So when I look at Arkansas, I don't know what they did on defense as far as the portal. Here they feel good about it. And to me, that will be the key. From the back end, you got to be fast. We talked about speed. You got to be fast, keep everybody in front. You got to be physical in the middle, and then you got to have somebody on that edge that can rush the passer, that can create a difference to cause lost yardage plays, or at least where a lineman or offensive coordinator says, you know, we're going to put 4 hands on this guy. Or if you do that, now you have something. With Sanders, with the backs, and KJ offensively, when I look at this non-conference schedule, I think it's so important. Get off on the right foot. Win those 4. Go get West Carolina, Little Rock. Go get the Kent State. BYU will be big. Get that one. You get these 4 non-conference, and I look at the conference. You look at Auburn. I don't see a quarterback coming back. I don't know. I still think there's a lot of questions there. You look at Ole Miss, a lot of questions. Mississippi State. I mean, to me, I really think it's a good. If you take care of your non-conference, you can get 7. And now, hey, let's go play LSU. Let's go play Alabama. Let's get to 60. But it's not a best of 7. That's the thing I always used to, you know, Matt, you remember. I didn't care about, hey, I know they're King Kong. I know they're rated number 1 in the country. We're not going to flinch. We're not going to flinch. We get LSU, or we get Alabama. It's a 60-minute game. And all we got to do is get to the 4th quarter. Get to the 4th quarter, anything can happen. I see 7 wins, and then now you're playing with house money. To me, you could get 8, 9 to stay healthy, ball bounces right. I mean, it could be a big year.
That's right. We went into Austin. I'm telling you, Austin did that. Texas that year. That squad: Mark Pierce, Cedric Cobbs, George Wilson, Richard Olive, Caleb Miller. Man, we hit them right in the mouth. They didn't want it.
You know what, Matt? You know that game, and this is where I have so much respect for your group. I love the road focus that y'all had, because Texas, as we I grew up with Southwest Conference, and so Texas was always the giant. You know, you got to beat Texas. And if you look at the record, Texas versus Arkansas, it's lopsided in favor of Texas. And when Matt's group went to Texas, that focus was just unbelievable road focus. Because when you go on the road, you can get embarrassed by a team that's full of athletes. But here's what happened. All of a sudden, you got a good plan together. You got Matt Jones at the point guard, and he's making it happen. And the defensive coordinator, he worried about Cedric Cobbs, he worried about these other backs, and all of a sudden, Matt takes a bootleg on 3rd and 1 and takes it 70 versus, I'm talking about guys that run 4-3. I'm talking about guys that run 4-4. But guess what? They can't catch him. And you had plays like that. You had explosive plays, Matt, that just put them on their heel. And guess what? You took the air out of the stadium in Texas and Austin. The fans were already beat when you jumped on them the way you did. And the way y'all finished that game was it was awesome. And Jim Lindsey, Jerry Jones were having to be at that game. And I had them speak to the team the night before, and I tell you what, they were there in that celebrated locker room. I wish we had that on tape. That was phenomenal.
I think it'd be a good place to leave this. And, Coach, I feel like we could go another 2 hours with you, but I want to be respectful of your time and really appreciate you coming on and talking with me and Matt today. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And, man, enjoy whatever you're going to be doing on Saturdays, okay?
You bet. Well, guys, hey, I appreciate y'all having me on. Hey, Matt, Roy Barnhill wants to know when you're coming down here, man. They're ready for a rematch on that golf.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. We got to go get a golf. I was telling Phil we played golf right before I started this show, and it's about time. We got to go get us another round in us.
Got to go. As long as you give me 2 aside.
We got it. 2 aside. Good speed, H. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. That's great stuff.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, thanks again.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.